All right. Let's get into it. Well,
yeah.
Episode 1 of the Warfighter
Tobacco podcast.
Yeah. So we don't have any sponsors, so this is going to be easy.
Oh, we do. We have one.
Yeah.
Warfighter Tobacco.
Yeah. It's brought to you by us.
But yeah, so we're going to start something new here. We're going to do a little podcast, talk to you guys, give you a little behind the scenes, lift the veil a little bit.
On the cigar industry.
Yeah.
Not just Warfighter.
No, it's all things Warfighter.
Yeah. All things Warfighter. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be us. Industry, cigars, Kira, whatever. But we're going to try to get some guests on. We're going to try to get some people to, I don't know, open up a little bit differently than some other shows do.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, let's start off with a cigar and a cocktail.
Yeah.
And we'll jump right into it.
So we are recording on Friday afternoon, which makes drinking handy for me.
Yeah. It makes life a lot easier when you're doing it on a Friday afternoon. But you pass that basil?
I sure can.
Thank you. But yeah, so what are you smoking?
I'm going to smoke the Corojo, our 556 Garrison.
Yeah. I have a 762 Garrison Rosado.
Oh, you beat me to that one.
I did.
So, Warfighter Tobacco. I guess the podcast listeners might not know who we are. So, we own this tobacco company. We're veteran owned, and we started it some years back.
It's a great description.
Do we want to get into
tobacco company? We're veteran owned. We started it a while ago.
Yeah. Do we want to get into a little bit of the history of Warfighter? Should we start off?
We can do a brief one, then we can go into detail later.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's going to be a lengthy episode.
Oh, it could
kind of go over all the ebbs and flows of everything we've been through.
I gave a brief one.
A little bit more detail.
We're people and we do things and
stuff.
Yeah.
And then we drink whiskey and smoke cigars.
Yeah.
And we know things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Warfighter Tobacco, we started 2016.
Thanks, sir.
We started in 2016 and we thought we had an idea of what we knew and what we didn't know. And we realized we didn't know
anything.
And so we learned really quickly and found people that were smarter than us. And over the years, adapted into what we are today.
Yeah. So
yeah,
so in the cigar industry, we started out as occasional cigar smokers and decided we're going to start a brand.
Yeah.
And like John said, we made all the mistakes because we didn't know anything about the cigar industry. And some of those mistakes were expensive. Some are funny. Some are painful.
Yeah. Everyone was a learning experience.
Everyone was a learning experience. But I think, as time goes on this podcast, we'll get into some of those stories, some of the history, some of how everything came to be.
Right.
We'll get into a little bit more about, other people's experiences in the cigar industry.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into the veteran community, into some military stuff.
And how that relates to cigars also.
Yeah. Our backgrounds, I think I don't think we've ever really sat down and interviewed each other.
Yeah.
So that, because I feel like I can interview you so that I can get the audience to know who you are.
Right.
I
can do the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be on some upcoming episodes. We'll do that. We'll deep dive into who we are, what we're about, what we stand for, what are, just what kind of people we are and what our beliefs and stuff might be. And I don't know. What else?
Yeah.
We'll get into, what else can we get into on this show?
Oh, well, shit. We can get into lighting a cigar right now. For those who are newer listeners, because, we're episode 1.
So, John, is there a yes or no answer? Is there a correct way to light a cigar? Yes or no answer?
No.
Is there a wrong way to light a cigar?
Yes.
Yeah.
There isn't a correct way to do it because there's so many you can do it with a match. You can do it with a Bic lighter, a butane lighter, a piece of cedar, a magnifying glass, pretty much anything that's a heat generating source.
Yeah.
You can probably light it. So we've done it off of machine guns and suppressors. Like there's no really wrong way to. Well,
if the goal is to get the cigar lit, there's no wrong way to do that.
No, but there's a right way to do it.
There is a right way.
And we might have just said that backwards from what we said originally. But ultimately, when you light your cigar, you want the edge of that cigar all the way around it to be rolled over and lit. Not like that.
So I have a little dark spot right here, which means it's not lit. So
all the way.
I'm going to touch that little spot up.
But if you would have let that go,
it would have fixed itself.
It couldn't have. But you would have had an issue from the light all the way through that cigar if it didn't fix itself. Yeah. A lot of the cigars, they fix themselves.
But look, that little bit of flame on that spot, and it's fixed now.
Yep.
So,
but if you light a cigar and only half of it's lit, only half of it's going to burn.
It's true.
And
sometimes that half is the middle.
Right?
Like if you use a Bic lighter and you
hold it
puff
one
on
spot,
the flame will go to the path of least resistance, which is sometimes the center. And then,
Yep. So. I've gotten this question. It was asked to me last weekend when I was down in a ranch in South Texas. And the guy was lighting his cigar, and I gave him my lighter to light his, and he lit his cigar, and then he hands it back to me. And when he lit his cigar, he cut it, and he picked a cigar, put it in his mouth, and he went right to lighting. Right. He handed the lighter back to me, and I toasted the foot of the cigar.
Right.
And then I lit it, in my mouth. And he's like, "Why do you do that?" And I've been doing it for so long that I'm just like, it's just what we do.
Yeah.
And that's what I asked. I was like, "Oh, it's just how you light a cigar." And he's like, "Well, but why do you do it though?" And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "I can explain it to you. When you toast the foot of the cigar, it adds heat to the leaves. And that allows when you actually put it in your mouth to light it, it's more evenly heated and you more evenly burn on the foot of that cigar."
Yeah.
I was like, it just makes sense. It prevents issues, down the road with that cigar. And he's like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, I understand that."
John, have you ever smoked a cigar and the first 3 puffs are so harsh that it's almost terrible, but then it gets better?
Yeah.
And you don't know why.
Yeah.
You want to know why?
Why?
I'll show you why.
It's the heat.
So if I take my torch here
and you want to weld with it,
and I just hold it like this for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, and it's orange, right?
Yeah.
If I keep that heat on there, look at that. Oh, it's so orange. It must be lit perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm actually doing is I'm creating. Now, this one already had some ash on it, but if you do that initially, you're turning your ash in, like you're burning. I don't know. You're melting your ash essentially.
Yeah.
And it's going to give you a very bitter flavor.
Right.
So my whole point of that is a good way to light a cigar is with the least amount of heat as possible.
Yeah.
The colder you can keep your cigar and yet get it lit,
right,
it's just going to taste more naturally. If you just put that torch to it and hold it there, you create so much char. It's just, and it tastes gross.
But and when you're smoking a cigar, you can burn the flavor out of it. Mm-hmm. You can smoke fast enough where that cigar gets so hot that it takes away all the flavor profiles that cigar was designed to have.
And if anybody knows that, it's this man, because he smokes a cigar so
fast. But I've figured out a way to smoke fast but keep my cigar cool.
Yeah.
So I don't lose the flavors out of it. And that's just taking years of smoking the quote unquote wrong way. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy my cigars when I smoke them though. And there's only a couple times that I've realized that I'm smoking it too fast. Like I'm not getting the flavors I'm supposed to get out of the cigar. And it's usually when I'm doing something else. Like I'm not paying attention to actually smoking the cigar. Like I'm doing it while I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And then I just start fucking smoking.
Yeah.
And then next thing I noticed, I'm like, oh, that was weird. And I look down and my ash is like comes to a point. It's like 1.5 inches long. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I smoke 2 types of cigars as well. The cigar that I pay attention to that I'm really enjoying, and then I smoke just to do the act of smoking, and I'm not paying any attention to it.
Right.
There's been times I've smoked whole cigars and I've tried to think back to what the last one was I smoked. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Just because I'm busy doing something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
I've realized lately what I've been doing is, especially when I'm driving, I'll put the cigar in my mouth and I'll leave it in my mouth and I'll bite it right in the side of the left side of my front teeth. And I'll bite that cigar and I'll put it in my mouth. And then like 20 minutes later, the ash falls in my lap and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like I almost forgot I was smoking this cigar. It was just hanging out of my mouth the whole time.
I don't do that.
But that's what I've been lately, like the past probably couple of weeks, and I've caught myself doing it. Or like driving around the side by side and I'll just have it in my mouth.
I can't do that because it ashes. And then like if you have any speed, it blows right into my face.
That's true. Yeah. Is there anything that you do, an activity that you do where you don't smoke a cigar?
There's probably a couple.
Besides those.
Definitely afterwards.
Yeah.
An activity that I would choose not to smoke a cigar.
Yeah. Is there times where you smoke a cigar where you're like, shit, I guess I can smoke a cigar while I'm doing that?
Oh, I don't like to smoke a cigar if it's super humid and I'm just sweaty.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I'm actually working and working up a sweat, I'll wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. What else? I don't know.
Because I realized like I smoke a cigar doing almost anything.
Yeah.
Like all kinds of random things, like shooting.
Yeah.
Like I'll have a cigar in my mouth as I'm zeroing a gun. And
right.
I don't even think of it anymore.
I know my computer keyboard wishes I didn't smoke a cigar at my desk all the time.
How many cigars do you think on average you smoke a day?
I think I've actually cut back recently because I've been so busy doing stuff.
Because you can't smoke while you're doing.
Yeah. Like we're packing up the house. Right.
Yeah.
So, a minimum I smoke 2 a day.
Mm-hmm.
A maximum's probably not maximum, but an average is probably 5 to 6 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad.
Right.
I'm saying I do it because I own a cigar brand. I have a really big humidor with a whole bunch of cigars in it.
You enjoy smoking these cigars.
I do. Otherwise I wouldn't smoke 6 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it, do you smoke 6 a day because of the nicotine in a cigar? Or do you smoke 6 a day because you want to, like, you enjoy that cigar? Is it a need or is it a want?
It's definitely not a need because I can go days without.
Mm-hmm.
There's been recently I've gone a day or 2 without.
Yeah.
But rarely because I don't have to. Right. I have cigars. I like to smoke a cigar. I think the nicotine actually helps me focus on things.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good nicotine. It's like a caffeine. It's a stimulant.
Right.
It's not like caffeine. It's not a.
Yeah, you have to have caffeine and nicotine.
Yeah.
You can't have, one without.
Can't have one without the
Can't
other.
have one without the other.
Right. No, but I believe that nicotine is a stimulant. It does help with focus, with, staying awake, for instance, like being in the military. If you were on guard and you're trying to fall asleep, you'd either light a cigar and throw chewing.
Yeah.
Help you stay awake. Whoops.
And I think, I think that's proven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people like chew nicotine gum to help focus. They, if they don't want to be smoking a cigarette or whatever, but yeah. So,
yeah. That was my death by spreadsheets. I'd pop one of the Alpha Brain.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'd get an espresso, like a quad shot of espresso and a cigar. And about 10 minutes into it, everything was like laser focused. I could see the formulas in the spreadsheets and shit. Yep. But yeah, nicotine definitely does. But yeah, because I've been asked that too about cigars.
Now, I think people think that some people probably think nicotine is bad.
Yeah, look, it's addictive. That's what's in cigarettes.
Right. But nicotine in its true form isn't bad for you. I think the bad part of nicotine is when you bring smoke into your lungs.
Well, yeah, that changes everything.
And then in cigarettes, there's all kinds of additives too.
Yeah, I heard that in a cigarette, there's only about 5% actual tobacco. The rest of it is additives and crap they put in it to get you hooked on them.
Right.
You know?
Our producer just had a party foul.
That was a shop phone. Can't really yell at him that much. But yeah,
nicotine by itself isn't necessarily bad for you.
No.
Right?
No. And I don't think cigars are addicting.
No, they're not. Because
I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, fuck, I need a cigar.
Wake up in the morning and think, oh, I kind of want a cigar.
Well, I want one.
Yeah.
But it's not like I remember I used to smoke cigarettes. I used to chew. And I remember when I smoked cigarettes, as soon as I opened my eyes in the morning, it didn't matter what else was going on. I didn't care about food or coffee or taking a piss or doing whatever. I went outside and I had a cigarette.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like the hardest part for me to quit smoking cigarettes was after I ate food or anytime I drove a vehicle. Anytime I got in a vehicle, I lit a cigarette.
Yeah.
And that was like the hardest thing. And when I quit, I get in a vehicle and I was just like antsy. You know what I mean? Just because it was a creature of habit of, lighting that cigarette. But with cigars, like you said, like I can go days without smoking and it's just like whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And there's times like after a trade show, we're smoking 20, 25 cigars a day for a week.
Yeah.
And then we get back here and I don't smoke for like 3-4 days. Like I'm still burnt out.
You can smoke too much. You can. And during a trade show, we probably smoke too much. I think everybody that's gone to a cigar trade show can probably say the same thing.
Well, you're talking about cigars all day long. So you don't have to be smoking one, but it helps.
At a trade show, you almost have to be. I mean, you're right, you don't, but you're the odd man out if you're not.
Yeah.
And it's from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the evening or the next morning, you know? So, yeah. But it's fun. You're smoking with your buddies. We only see once a year.
Yep.
Part of the reason that we're doing this podcast is to be able to hang out with some of the other cigar manufacturers and reps and people that we know in the industry, because we became really good friends with a lot of them.
A lot. So that is one of the cool things about this industry is, and we've talked about it a lot in the past, just in things that we've done. But that cigar, it creates that common bond between two people that I'm willing to guess wouldn't normally have a conversation.
Yeah.
If you're in a cigar lounge or a shop and you sit down and you're having a cigar, 9 times out of 10, you're going to talk to the people that are around you.
Yeah.
And some kind of a conversation is going to get struck up, whether it's you overhear a conversation with somebody else, you sit down and somebody's like, hey man, what are you smoking? You know, whatever it is, that conversation is going to start, but it starts because of that cigar.
Yeah. It brought you to the same place at the same time.
And the industry is the same way.
Yeah.
You meet all these people that have, most of them are like-minded.
Yeah.
At least for, the certain hobbies, whether it's cigars or whiskey or, whatever. A lot of cigar smokers are gun guys. But that cigar brought those people together, brought the industry together.
Name somebody in the industry that you probably never would have became friends with if it wasn't for the fact of cigars.
Oh, it's too easy.
I have one in mind for sure.
It was Sin and Josh with Dissident Cigars.
Yeah.
Mainly because they live in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And I never would have met them.
Right.
If it wasn't for cigars.
And Eddie from Hireman Solomon.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
There's no chance I'd ever meet Eddie in passing.
Well, even if we'd met in passing, it's not like we would be connected to each other and stop and hang out.
Yeah.
Right.
But we spend a week in Nicaragua with him. Yeah. And now he's our best friend.
Right. So just so you get an idea what we're talking about, Eddie runs Hireman Solomon Cigars. Owns it.
Yep.
Mason themed cigar company. He is so proper and professional. And I'm not saying that we're not, but we're not. We're
not to that extent.
Not like
he wears a suit every day.
He looks great all the time. Like he's just, very, he's just a good guy. But like, if we were passing each other on the streets, we're not the same type of people that would hang out.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
I consider him one of my best friends in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's just, something like that. It's that's what the cigar does, I guess.
Yep.
So.
Well, like Milan.
Yeah. That's a good story.
That I met him in Nicaragua sitting at a hotel. I was down there working on some new blends way back. And this is, I don't know, 2017, I think.
Yeah.
And Milan and his uncle, Mike, were sitting down there. I was sitting on this little patio area in the hotel having a cigar and a drink, the first night that I was down there. And here's these two guys sitting there having cigars and drinks, but they were speaking Arabic. And I was like, I don't understand Arabic, but I understood the dialect. Like, I go, wait, I've heard this before. This is from Iraq. Like, and they're very specific dialects depending on where you're from. And so I struck up a conversation with them. Hey, where are you guys from? Like, California. Like, bullshit. And then, we come to find out, like, I've been to their hometown in northern Iraq. And, we're still friends. Every show I see him, any chance I get.
You left a part out. Like, nobody goes to somebody's hometown in Iraq.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So let
me go back onto that for a minute. So there, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a small Christian town, north of Mosul in Iraq. And it's built up against the side of a mountain. Half the homes and stuff are built into this, cliff. And so when I was asking them about it, they're like, yeah, we're from here. And I was like, they're like, we're from Iraq. I'm like, where? And they're like, northern Iraq. And I was like, where? And they're like, well, this town. And I was like, I know where that is. And they're like, shut up. So I pulled up Google Maps and I'm like, this one right here? And they're like, yeah. I didn't type it in. I just zoomed into the map. And I was like, yeah, I've been there. And he's like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, there's a church here and a little kebab stand here. And there's this and this house up here has parties every weekend. And everyone's in the front yard in plastic chairs. And he's like, holy shit, you have been there. And I'm like, yeah, like the church cooked us a meal once. So, it's beautiful. And so obviously, that built a connection between them. We've done some business with them since. And, they're great dudes. And it's just, I never would have met them if it wasn't for cigars.
Right.
Not to mention that the connection, the how small the world is with it. Like I've been to the hometown, like Milan's uncle, Mike, he was in Saddam's army and he fled in the 90s and walked by foot at night. It took him 5 days to walk from his town into Turkey to try to hop a flight to get into the States and finally got his citizenship and home. I mean, the story is amazing. Yeah. Like the struggles that they went through to be where they're at today. And now they're in, they have businesses and they have their own cigar brand and all this stuff. And it's just like, from being there in their hometown to seeing where they grew up and what their life was like and how that their culture is, to see what they're doing now and being able to meet them in the middle of nowhere, Nicaragua, and just be like, wow, like, all because of a cigar. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting industry in that sense. Yeah. It brings together a whole bunch of people that normally wouldn't be together.
Right. Yeah. It's fun. It's a fun industry. And we hope to share a little bit of it with the listeners. I think it'll be fun. So.
Yeah. We answered a lot of the stuff. We started doing a little segment on Warfighter called A Minute of Your Time on social media. And they had some really good questions in there. I almost asked you one of them, but I figured we'll just let that go out when it goes out.
Yeah. So if there's anybody in the veteran community, the cigar industry that you would like us to have on the podcast and can make that connection for us, send them our way. We'll probably try to do this every other week or weekly. I don't know. We haven't decided yet.
We'll see how it goes.
But yeah, we'd like to sit down and share some stories with some other people. And if there's something you guys want to hear about, especially in that topic area, let us know.
Anything warfighter.
Yeah, give us some comments, and I guess we'll have to spin up a podcast Facebook page or something. So actually, if you're a listener, you probably found out about this through the podcast Facebook page. So
or through warfighter.
Yeah. We'll probably kick out an email and let
everybody know.
Let everybody know we're doing this. So
yeah. What so there's a bunch of stuff that's going on in the industry. Where do you get your information about that?
So I mean, Half Wheel's pretty decent about putting out information. PCA sends out the emails. The CRA, PCA's Premium Cigar Association, they send out a lot of emails that are industry related. The CRA is what?
Cigar Rights of America.
Cigar Rights of America. And the CRA is open for membership to anybody, if I remember right.
Yes.
You don't have to be an industry partner.
And all those funds go to helping the industry fight against all the regulations, the regulatory arm that's coming out with a hammer fist at us right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, actually they got their pee-pee slapped. So,
but they just, the FDA just appealed it.
Oh, did they?
Which I don't know how they're going to, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. Yeah. It's only speculation from my end, but yeah, the FDA just put out that they appealed the judge's decision to throw everything out. But I don't know how, because it was pretty cut and dry. The judge was just like, look, FDA, you have no idea what you're doing. Yeah. So we'll see how it all plays out.
But we're from the government. We're here to help.
Oh, yeah. We're so here to help. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, it's been an ongoing thing for, 6.5 years now.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to be quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll get into maybe some behind the scenes business aspects of some stuff. Like, I don't think people realize how, like, for example, when we order cigars, it takes like 120 to 150 days to receive those cigars.
Minimum. Yeah.
So if our planning's not perfect, we run out of certain things every now and then, which we hate.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate. We try to be on top of it. But, with a timeline like that, it's hard to predict and, and stay on top of it all. But, just so people understand, like, oh, why'd you run out of this? Well,
so why does it take 120 days?
Well, that's a good question. So one, when you order cigars, you're not necessarily the first in line the day you order it to have your cigars made.
Yeah. At the factory.
At the factory.
Yeah.
Next is they have to, sort out all that tobacco.
Right.
That goes into each blend. And then it takes time because they're hand rolled.
Yeah.
So only so many cigars can be rolled in a day.
Yeah.
By however many rollers you might have.
Right.
So that can take so long. Then you got, your packaging people that have to do the boxes, all that takes time.
Your bands, your cellophane.
Yep, all that. And then your cigars have to age in Nicaragua for a minimum of 30 days.
Right.
We like to try to get, 90 days of age on the cigars before we even bring them to the States.
Yeah.
So there's 90 days of it right there. So it's, so it's just not a quick process.
Right.
But
yeah. And I don't know if everybody understands or not, but there's no machines that are involved in our cigars. There's no tractors that are used to, in the fields to plant. There's no fancy high-tech machinery to pick the leaves when the plant's ready to harvest. The processing of the tobaccos to turn it from a green leaf into something that's smokable. There's no machines that are used in that. It's all manpower. It's all done by hand.
Yeah.
And that's what adds,
there's a lot of, so, we've gone down to Nicaragua a lot, but this last trip we went down there, we got a tour of the processing again, but the tour guide was spoke perfect English.
Oh, he was the guy that runs the process.
He runs everything, right?
All of it. He's done it for years.
I learned a lot more
from him
on this tour.
On the processing side of things.
Yeah. And not just how processing works, but like their systems.
Why they do what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I learned a lot from him. He was a good dude.
Yeah. But I liked his mindset, how he thought if he had an issue, how he approached that issue and how he came up with that solution.
Right.
I loved how he did that because he never was like, I think this is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
He put himself, if I was that guy, if I was in his shoes and I had to do that job in those conditions and try to maximize my output or be as efficient as I could, how would I do it?
Right.
And then he goes and talks to all the dudes and he watches and he takes notes and he does all the stuff. And then he comes up with a game plan. It's not just like, he's like, oh, well, you know, the good idea fairy. Like,
I'm the boss and this is what I said.
We're doing it like this because I said so. No, not at all.
And what John's talking about is not the actual process of the tobacco, but the system that the people use to accomplish each task.
Yeah. Like when they put the tobacco into bales. Right. That was one of the situations or the incidents that he talked about and how he improved it. And he said that he used to take 20 guys to work in that area.
Right.
And to make those bales. And he goes, that it was just too much. I don't know why it was happening like this. And one of the reasons was it's because these bales weigh up to
120 pounds.
Yeah, 120 pounds. And so they have these guys, they needed the manpower to be able to lift the bales and the wooden apparatus that holds it all together while they're pressing it, onto this press. So instead he designed this roller where they just build it on this roller and it slides under the press. And he goes, we cut from 20 guys down to 8 and we tripled our production.
Yeah. Not only that, but he made it
way
easier for those 8 guys.
And it was all because he came up with a small little change in the system to make things work easier for his workers.
Yeah.
It wasn't I guarantee you, he wasn't like, well, if they do it this way, they're going to be able to produce more. They're going to be able to do this faster. It was like, no, this is going to make their lives easier on their job. They're going to be happier at what they do. And then, we'll see what the output.
You know what I really appreciated about that tour was they don't use computers like we do for everything.
Yeah.
Everything's done by paper.
Yep.
Right. But it was such a perfect system he had graphs and of when stuff was done and how long it had to be there and what all the measurements for the temperature and all this stuff. Right. And you could literally pick up one piece of paper and see all the information you needed to.
Yeah.
And it was so efficient without computers.
But it was also so simple that you or I could understand what was on that graph.
In Spanish.
We didn't. Yeah. It wasn't like it was a super complicated, like we're going to make up this number and this is what we're going to, They're like, no, it's KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. That's it. And that's everything they did. How do I make my guys happier? How do I make their quality of life and their jobs easier?
Yeah.
And eventually or ultimately that's going to increase output.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a great tour and I really appreciated that one. Mm-hmm. So
no, that one was really fun. It's funny. Every time I go down to Nicaragua, I learn something new.
Yeah.
And you like the processor. I've been to the processor. I don't even know fucking how many times.
Yeah.
But I learned so much on this trip versus previous trips. Like I understood the process. I already know what they were doing.
Yeah.
But it was more of the why they're doing it is what I learned. And it was just like,
it was the how to run the company behind the scenes is what I learned more of, like how they're doing it and how, I'm sure they had a mission statement. They have, how they make their people happy and keep coming back. And, I learned more of that stuff about it this time, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and then our factory is similar, and how they run it there.
Yeah.
A lot of it kind of reverts back to military style stuff. If you're in any leadership style position in the military, whether you're an NCO or an officer or whatever, if you have somebody that has an issue that's even if it's a subordinate, you know, you don't call them out on the spot and make a scene.
Right.
Like in the military, you do at certain instances.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't call them out and make a scene on the spot. You pull them to the side and you have a conversation. And that gets so much more accomplished than it does being like, hey man, you're fucking up in front of everybody. Because now the guy's embarrassed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so Gonzalo,
Yeah.
the guy that runs our factory, you know, we had a leadership conversation with him one time. And he, you know, he's like, you know, I don't remember the word he used, but essentially like you scold them in private and you praise them in public.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that was, you know, and so working with a factory that has a leadership style that I
agree with,
you know, I like it, but, yeah, so it's,
mm-hmm.
you know, for being you know, Nicaragua and you think that, oh, you know,
it's a third world country.
Yeah. But man, I tell you what, like the business people down there know how to run businesses.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So
for the most part, restaurants need a little help.
Yeah. There's probably some good ones though.
Well, it's a different culture.
Yeah.
You know, like here in the States, we expect everything now. It's instant gratification.
You know what I will give the restaurants though? Is when we roll up in a steakhouse and they bring out ashtrays, even though you're not supposed to smoke in the restaurant.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
God
the
damn
rules
it.
are flexible.
I appreciate that. One of the reasons that I sometimes feel more free in Nicaragua than the United States of America
Right.
is when I roll into a steakhouse and they're like, you know, you're not supposed to smoke in here.
But here's an ashtray.
But I see you guys are all in the cigar industry. Here's ashtrays. Enjoy.
Yep.
You know, like, all right.
Yeah.
I like it.
They get it. Like next time we're going to go back
Yeah.
because we know we can smoke in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you've never been to a restaurant and had a steak and been able to smoke a cigar simultaneously, it's something you should do.
Yeah. It's really nice. It is.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you smoke in your house?
No, not in the house.
No.
Smoke in my office.
Yeah. In here.
Yeah.
In the
here.
shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I smoke outside.
Yeah. Do you ever like?
I walk through the house.
Yeah, that's my next question.
No, like if I'm smoking in my truck on the way home,
Yeah.
like I'll grab my cigar and I'll walk through the house and put it in my back patio, you know, where I'm going to finish it. So,
Yeah. Like I'll smoke a cigar while I'll be in my backyard and I'll go in to make a drink or something.
Yeah.
And I'll bring my cigar with me, mainly because I forgot I was smoking a cigar.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to smoke in my house. It was like I'm halfway through making my drink.
You
I got
also
smoke in my eye.
you also have a smoking room. in
I
your
do.
house.
I have a smoking room, but it's upstairs and I'm a lazy fuck.
I know, right?
I have a humidor up there and I probably have, I don't even know, 1,500, 2,000 cigars in it. It's full. And
The good news is you don't even remember what's in it anymore.
I don't. And I can't even tell you the last. Actually, I can. It was a couple of days ago. I put more cigars in it, but I didn't take any out. But I have one of these humidors, one of the Warfighter humidors on my. I have like a little kind of kitchen bar thing above my sink, and I have it sitting there. And so I just load that, and that's what I smoke out of.
Right.
So all the stuff that's upstairs, you know, I got cigars that have been, I don't even know, 6-7 years.
Yeah.
That have been in a humidor and they're just chilling up there.
Yeah.
I did, speaking of that reminds me about saving cigars for a special occasion or saving a bottle of booze for a special occasion. And I was just having a conversation with a guy about booze. And it had to do with a bottle of the 3-year Pappy, like the really crazy $10,000 bottle. So it was these guys that were friends with the Pappy family.
Okay.
And the family gave them a bottle as a gift one year and gave it to one of the sons. It was 2 sons and a father. And so he showed the father the bottle that he got. Yeah. And the father's like, well, let's open it up and let's have a drink. He's like, well, you know, I was thinking about saving it for a special occasion. Like a lot of people save bottles or save cigars or, you know, whatever. And the father was like, well, I think it's a special occasion right now. We're here. Let's drink this.
Yeah.
And so after a little bit of convincing, the son was like, okay, cool. So they popped the bottle. They drank the whole thing that night.
Yeah.
Right. It was him and his brother and his father. Within 6 months, his father and his brother passed away.
Oh my goodness.
That bottle was that last memory of them three together.
Wow.
They drank a whole bottle of Pappy.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, hits the nail on the head when it comes to like, what am I saving this for?
Yeah.
What's this perfect scenario where I'm going to open this bottle or I'm going to smoke this cigar?
Right.
Why isn't it right now?
Yeah.
Like, what am I saving it?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
Why am I saving this? So that humidor that's got all those cigars in it that I'm sitting at, it's not because I'm saving them for a special occasion.
Right.
It's because I'm too lazy to walk up a flight of stairs to go get one.
For a special occasion.
Because it's Tuesday.
Yeah. That being said, I have like 2 cigars.
Yeah.
That I probably won't smoke.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How come? What are they?
One is an American that JC Newman gave me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I appreciate that. I've smoked other ones.
Right.
But the one he gave me, like, I'll just keep it. It's cool.
Yeah.
And the other one is that fucking Davidoff that I bought. And that motherfucker's to remind me not to be stupid.
So put a little backstory behind that so people understand why it reminds you to not be stupid.
So I'm with my son. I'm giving him a ride from California, Petaluma, California, where he was in Coast Guard training. And I was giving him a ride down to Florida, down to Key West, where he's stationed now. And so we're driving through San Francisco and we're going to spend the night there. And this is kind of during COVID. And he wanted to go to bed. And it was, I don't know, it was probably 9, 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And he just didn't want to go to the Cigar Lounge.
Yeah.
Right. In San Francisco. But I'm like, it's San Francisco. Like, I've heard horror stories, like whatever. I'm walking around downtown San Francisco. I'm going to see what I see. And there was nothing was open. There was like one bar. This
was also on the tail end of COVID.
So everything's shut down. Right. It was kind of a ghost town. But then I searched cigar, and there was a cigar lounge, like, I don't know, 5 blocks away. So I walk over there.
Yeah.
And they had a great whiskey selection.
Yeah.
And there was like 6 people in there. I sit down, they had Yellow Spot that was in cherry cast barrels. I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, I'm doing this, right?
I came to the right place.
It was mostly like-minded people that were very much not complete lefties. And, there was no extreme weird people in there. They were the people that weren't afraid of COVID. They were going out, fuck this bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And so I was with my people. Well, I was sitting down next to this couple. And we were hitting it off, just having a good conversation. And this place had, it was a cigar lounge, but they had like 2 cabinet style humidors.
Okay.
Like not very, maybe 4. So not a huge cigar selection.
Yeah.
It's San Francisco. It's in California. So the cigars are expensive, right? There's, I don't know, 27% tax or
it's
56% tax. Yeah. Well, the lady must frequent that place that I was sitting next to. And so she asked the bartender, she's like, hey, did you get any new cigars in? He's like, yeah, this box just came in today. I've been waiting for it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll take 2 of those.
Did you know what it was?
Fuck no.
Did you even know what brand it was?
Nope.
No, so you knew nothing about the cigar and you're like, give me 2.
No, yeah. It was it was a fancy purple box.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't ask what it was.
Yep.
I didn't
you just said, give me 2.
Yeah. I'll take 2. I'll take 2 of those. Right. And so I gave the lady next to me one because she was like interested in it. Right. And whatever. So I was being nice, they bought me a drink. I bought them a drink, gave them a cigar, whatever.
Yeah.
So I get my tab that night.
Yeah.
Now I had a couple whiskeys.
How many was a couple?
A lot.
Like, go ballpark number. 6
doubles, probably
6 doubles. Okay.
Yeah. And you remember the tab because it was.
Yeah, it was. I saw it pop up on
the company credit
card
because I was trying to sell cigars there too.
Yeah,
it's company expense. Promise.
And you didn't want your in-house accountant getting mad at you.
That's true. That's true. So what was it? It was like $700. It
was like $710
for.
I don't know what you got, but it was $710 for just at a cigar lounge
for 6 drinks and 2 cigars.
But now, when we had that conversation, it wasn't much of a conversation. It was, and the reason why is because it was a lot of times at cigar lounges, when we go into one, especially if there's an event that's going on, and if there's a something that's benefiting from it,
right?
We try to be as charitable as we can be.
Yeah.
So if there's an event or something like this, and we see a charge like that go on one of the cards, and it's just like, okay, cool. Like there must have been a donation or something, like a raffle. Maybe we won something cool. And so Scott gets back and is like, hey, like how was California? Or how was the trip? Oh, the trip was great and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how's this cigar bar in San Francisco?
So 6 drinks and 2 cigars, $710.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 cigars were Davidoff Royales, which I have now learned are typically $100 a piece.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, they're $150 a piece. So I had no idea it was a $150 cigar. So it is still in my humidor to remind me not to be stupid. Now, am I saving it for a special occasion? No. I'm saving it to remind me.
Every time you open it, is it like right on when you open your humidor?
Well, it's in the humidor that's here now. The stand-up one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, yeah. And then I think I got like an LFD that is rolled into like a baseball bat that I got at the College World Series or something, you know. Like I don't really need to smoke it.
I have a Big Poppy cigar, David Ortiz from the Red Sox, that I'm probably just going to save. And it's not because I'm like waiting for a special day to smoke it. I just think it's cool. A cool design. Yeah. It comes in its own little box.
Yeah.
Like,
the baseball one, right? If I want to show somebody, like that's why I'm keeping it.
Yep.
Like it's just kind of a cool looking cigar.
And then I have a couple random ones. Like I have some from a house blends from a shop in Tennessee, Screaming Eagle Cigars.
Oh yeah,
because they did cigars that were for the unit that we were in when we were stationed at Fort Campbell.
Yeah,
and so like, I mean, I know where the cigars are made.
Yeah,
they're probably good cigars.
Yeah.
But I have no desire to smoke them just because I'm saving them because of the band they put on.
Yeah.
You know, like I could essentially save the band and still smoke the cigar.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool to, you know, have those. Like I have bands that I've saved that I've written stuff on the back, you know, like some cool event. You know, like I was in Palaca, Florida, with Round Canopy Parachute Team. And I jumped out of a Huey helicopter. With a cigar in my mouth.
Yeah.
And it was one of our Warfighter cigars. It was 762 Field Sumatra. And I wrote on the back of that band, I saved it.
Yeah.
You know, and that was my 11th jump. But it, you know, just that little note, 11th jump. Yeah. Now when I see that and I'm like, oh yeah, this cigar I had in my mouth as my feet were dangling out of the door of a Huey helicopter and I jumped with it, held it in my mouth till I landed on the ground. And then Justin, our producer, actually ran over with a lighter and cutter. And I didn't even use the cutter. I bit it off and I lit it right there. And I'm not supposed to. I'm in a nylon parachute that's extremely flammable, you know. But,
well, it was on the ground at the time.
It was.
So,
you know, but that's one of those like, it's a good story. Am I ever really going to, like, I'll talk about it on the podcast right now, but like, will I ever see that band?
Right.
You know, I think that band's in a box that probably has 1,000 other bands in it. Someday, somewhere, I'll go through it.
Yeah.
And I'll look at it and be like, oh, I remember this day.
Yeah. When you move again and it's in a box, you're like, oh, fuck it. Let's throw it away.
So I'll bet you I won't see that band until I'm over 60. And somebody's going through my shit cleaning it because I can't even wipe my own ass at that point.
At 60, huh? You got
I got 19 more years.
Low hopes for 60s.
Oh, I lived a hard life. I have been nice to myself. Yeah. Justin, what do you got for a timestamp? Where are we sitting at? Oh, okay, cool.
Sweet.
I have a
absolutely.
I have no idea.
That was the 6 whiskeys.
No, I think she did actually. Yeah, because she probably didn't know what the fuck it was either. She probably thought it was a $5 cigar, like, you know, like I don't know. So
sense.
Do you choose your cigar based on a price point?
No.
No.
I don't.
Does it?
I don't choose a cigar based on the price point sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I would never buy $100 cigar. Probably.
So if let's say there's 10 cigars sitting in front of you and there's no pricing on any of these cigars, and you pick one of them up and you go to a register and they tell you the price, would that make your decision whether or not you're going to buy it?
Oh, you mean when I go put it away?
Yeah. If you walked to the register and they're like, oh, that's $100, would you still be like, okay, cool? Or would you be like, you know what? I'm going to change my
It
my
depends.
choice.
It depends because I own a cigar brand,
Yeah.
right? Does the person behind the cash register know I own a cigar brand?
No.
Okay. Because if they did, and then like, oh, that cheap motherfucker, you know what I mean?
Right.
But
no, if you were just an average person walking into a cigar shop, nobody knew who you were, what you did.
if it was under $50, I would buy it.
Yeah.
If it was over $50, I'd be like, I'd really have to like justify it.
Yeah.
There would have to be a story behind it. They would have
Or
to,
you'd have to be seeking that cigar.
yes, or I'd have to know like, oh, this had like some amazing reviews or
Right.
you know something. Like
Yeah.
I'm not, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that more expensive cigars are better than an average price cigar?
No,
Why?
they might be more rare.
Okay.
They might be different,
Yeah.
but they're not necessarily better. Now, does that mean a $3 cigar is the same as a $10 cigar? Probably not.
As a $20 cigar.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would say anywhere between the $10 and $15 mark.
I'm going to call that an average.
Yeah, they're probably a good quality cigar at that price point. Or getting into the industry stuff a little bit, there's a smaller company that has too many middlemen and they're overpricing their cigar.
I mean, it happens.
It has to happen.
When we
Sometimes.
first started,
Fuck yeah.
we were overpaying for our cigars.
When we first started, our cigars were not great.
No.
And they were expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, because we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
So, but no, I'm not a cigar snob where, like I'm not going to smoke anything under $20.
Yeah.
Like, no, I want to smoke everything.
But you're also not going to try to flaunt what you're smoking based on the price point.
No.
Like, oh, I just got this $100 cigar, $150 cigar the other day that's just sitting in my humidor. I'm not smoking.
I'm on a podcast talking about how fucking retarded I am. No, I don't care, right?
So do you run into those people?
Yes.
Do you appreciate the conversations you have with them?
No. So the people that lead off with, this is $100 cigar.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. One, I assume, until proven I'm wrong, that they have no idea anything about cigars.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the Cuban cigar aspect of things.
Yeah, hate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Where do you have this closest to a Cuban? My favorite conversation I ever had with somebody about Cuban cigars was a guy asked, what Warfighter cigar is the closest to a Cuban cigar? And so my response was, well, which Cuban cigar are you trying to get something similar to?
Right.
Because there's a good amount of them.
Yeah.
There's not a shitload. Like there isn't like, well, here's 2,000 cigars out of Cuba.
Well, that would be like me asking you which, for example, which My Father cigar is closest to a Warfighter. Well, that's like saying which
Honda is the closest to a Chevy pickup.
or which Honda is closest to a Chevy. Well, which Chevy, which Honda?
Exactly.
It's you can't just generalize.
Yeah, the guy asks you which Warfighter cigar is the closest to a Cuban cigar. He's like, well, which Cuban are you going after? And his response to me was, well, I don't know. I've never had a Cuban cigar.
Yeah.
Okay, so what cigar? What am I supposed to be looking at?
So let's dissect this conversation.
Yeah.
Can you fault the guy?
No.
because he probably knows nothing about cigars.
And I can't fault him for it.
So the extent of what he thinks he knows is Cuba cigar, right?
Yeah.
That's the extent of his knowledge.
These are the best cigars
Those
in the
are
world.
the two terms he's heard together.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't fault him. You can educate him.
Yeah.
You know, if he wants it, you have to read your customer, right? Some people don't want to be taught anything.
Yep.
Some people want to be taught.
Yeah.
Like did I sound like an ignorant bastard right there? Like, I don't want to be that guy. Teach me. Okay, I will.
Yes.
Right.
Help me out.
Yeah. You know, so yeah. I mean, I hate the Cuban cigar thing because it's just such a myth.
It's like the Cuban cigar thing is like weed in the 90s and maybe early 2000s too.
Okay.
It was cool and everybody wanted it because you couldn't get it. It was illegal.
Right.
You can't have this.
Yeah.
So it has to be the best thing in the world.
Right.
Oh, I got this weed. Like, do you really like that's Mexican ditch weed, bro? It's the 90s, you know? But I feel like that's the easiest way to correlate the Cuban cigar stigma is because you can't have it. Right. And it was built that way over it's been what 60 something years since the mid to late 50s.
No,
50s.
64, right? When did Cuba cigars? I think it was 64.
Yeah. You know, but so nobody's been able to get them for that long consistently for consumer purchase. Like you right now, you can go to Cuba. You can go to Cuba right now,
or Canada, or Europe,
wherever. But you can go directly to Cuba. You can buy cigars directly from a factory down there, and you can bring them back for your personal consumption.
Yeah,
100% legal. We can't import them to sell them in the United States.
Right,
that is illegal. There's still an embargo on that. So I think that stigma on Cuban cigars is based off of the fact that you can't get them.
Yeah.
62. But yeah, I mean, like I've had Cuban cigars and I like some of them. Most of them I don't like, or they have construction or draw issues or something.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some good ones. Cuba has a unique flavor.
Very unique.
Yeah. Like I can smoke a fake Cuban and know it's a fake Cuban. But does that unique flavor that Cuban cigars have equal better? I don't think so.
Well, and that's why I think it comes down to the availability.
Yeah.
You know, like I know when somebody gives me a Cuban cigar, whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
The gesture behind it, I understand.
Yeah.
And I get it because it's like this person's giving me something that probably wasn't easy for them to acquire.
Right.
So I appreciate the effort that went into it and for you to give me this cigar and for you to want me to have this experience.
Except for when I give you a fake Cuban, because you know that I know.
That's different.
When we're in Jamaica
but
and I give you a fake Cuban.
And I'm like, let's do this. Yeah. But you know, if I didn't know any better and I went to Jamaica or I went to Mexico or I went to one of these places and somebody was selling these Cuban cigars and I'm not in the United States, I don't know any better.
No. And how many cigars did you need to smoke before your palate would allow you to identify a real one versus a fake one?
Oh, how many Cuban cigars or how many cigars in general?
Before you developed a palate enough.
Oh, probably thousands.
Right?
Yeah.
So I can't expect the average person.
Right. To know that any
different.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can, I smoked a Cuban and loved it. As long as you liked it, man.
Did you have a good experience?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Was the story behind why you got it? Cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I get that completely.
Were there beetles jumping out of it? Were there, you know, like, I mean.
And I've been gifted fake Cubans.
Yeah.
And
we've been gifted real Cubans.
We've been gifted real Cubans. And you know, I appreciate both of them.
Honestly, I think the real Cubans that we were gifted were the worst ones I've ever had.
Yeah, some of those figs weren't that bad. But like, I appreciate the effort, the meaning behind that gift, you know, and I don't care if it was a $2 cigar, if it was the most rare cigar in the world.
Yeah.
I appreciate them similarly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially from owning a brand. Like, I have access to however many cigars that I could possibly ever imagine I need.
That's why, like, I remember when JC Newman gave me the American cigar, right?
Yeah.
So if Scott Jansen, the owner of Warfighter, can give somebody a cigar and make their day,
right,
I'm going to fucking do it.
No, our families haven't been around for over 100 years doing this.
Exactly. But we have customers that are,
we have guys that appreciate it. I have cigars that I've been gifted, you know, like we talked about earlier, that I'm not going to smoke. And it's not because I'm saving them for a special day. It's just because of the meaning behind that cigar, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that was episode 1.
That was it. It was probably rough.
I think we're goddamn professionals.
Oh, that's because towards the end, because the whiskey started kicking in.
Once it touches your lips, it's just so good.
But yeah, so stay tuned for some fun. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything moving forward. And yeah.
And now we have a reason to smoke and drink and have a conversation on a Friday. I like this.
This is going to be great.
It's probably not going to be released on Friday, but that's when we're recording.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I hope it doesn't turn into like a decompression session where we just bitch about everything that about the week throughout the week. Yeah. Like, that's Friday. Let's drink and talk shit.
It's hopefully it's we can drink and forget and talk about the positive stuff.
Yeah, so prep for the weekend.
Yeah, prep for the weekend.
Yeah. Well, we're going to continue prepping. We don't know when this is going to get out, so hopefully you guys are having a great time too. But go check out warfightertobacco.com. Check out all of our social medias, Warfighter Tobacco on Instagram, Warfighter Tobacco on Facebook. We have a Warfighter company on TikTok. And we put up some videos and content on there. And then comment below. Let us know what you guys want to hear, what you want to see. If you have some weird cigar questions or industry questions, we'll either answer them or we'll tell you no. We're not going to talk about that. Yeah. But throw it down there and then stay tuned for some fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Happy Friday.